You want to talk about sex?
Let's talk about sex. Okay.
You freak.
I'm a freak. Yeah, I'm always talking about sex. It's an interesting subject.
Hey, if you want to be a freak and sell it on the weekend, none of my business.
Okay. Okay, we're talking about godly societies. Well, godly societies have higher rates of sexually transmitted diseases. They have higher teen pregnancy rates. They have higher abortion rates, even though many of them claim to want to stop abortion. They have higher infant mortality, which actually relates to sex, and higher teen suicides, which actually relates to sex. Also, marriage and religious marriages may have some impediments to non-religious marriages. So we can take a look at that. Attitudes towards homosexuality are very common with religious societies, negative attitudes. Okay, the reason for all these things are that religions need believers. Very simple. In order to create believers, you have to go out and recruit people, which is work, or you have to make them, right? And so mature religions make believers by having children who are brought up in the church. And so they have to do and they have to basically, religions control sex in order to make more believers, and it's just that simple. So how does this work? With sexually transmitted diseases and teen pregnancy, we find that religious societies and religious groups want to misinform people about their sexuality. They want to stifle use of condoms. They want to make sure that sex ed doesn't make it. They want to stop family planning. All these things. Well, misinformed kids are gonna get STDs. Misinformed kids are gonna get pregnant. It's just that simple. You know, you're pitting 4 billion years of evolution that says have sex, procreate, make more genes with this ridiculous little religion here that's trying to co-opt it and do that. And who's going to win? Well, the 4 billion years of evolution is going to win. People are going to have sex. They're not going to be controlled, and the teens are going to have kids, and they're going to have STDs because they're out there doing that, and we're going to prevent them from getting education. They're going to be harmed. So even recently, we've had the Pope say, "Oh, condoms cause AIDS." You know yeah. So the Pope recently, in his trip to Africa, said that condoms exacerbate the spread of AIDS, and he's been ridiculed for that, as he should be, because these are putts. We've had, here in Austin, we've had a dismantling of the family planning clinics, and we've had teenage birth rates increases for the second consecutive year here, and you know, Texas is leading that because Texas is leading in abstinence-only sex education.
By the way, there was evidently a big brawl at a church in France this morning.
Yeah?
Over protesting the Pope's statements.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't have all the details because the news was in French, and
okay.
It's one of the 3 or 4 languages I don't speak.
To have brawls, as far as I'm concerned. Okay, let's talk about abortion and infant mortality.
The brawl.
Well, religions are happy for women to be pregnant. They want them to be pregnant. They just don't want them to have abortions. So, and the reason is that, you know, when you have a woman that has a child in her uterus, she's sort of in control, and the religions, and they have to control that woman in order to get that baby to come out. And once that baby's out, things are kind of okay, because the mother-daughter bond is going to kick in, and she's going to do her best to raise that kid. But in order to have more children, you've got to trick people into getting pregnant and not having abortions. And this is a very big part of what religions are doing. So they have to. So ironically, religions are actually creating the situation where there are going to be more abortions. And this is why the number of abortions is higher in religious societies. Is they want to have more kids. They just don't want to take responsibility for them. They want to foist it off onto the poor mother. And the similar thing with infant mortality. If you have kids that are born into a home that is where they're not wanted, they're gonna die earlier. And I've talked about infant mortality a little bit with the faith healing and all that crap. Okay, so that's how I believe that these things come about. What about teen suicide? Well, teen suicide, unfortunately, tends to be heavily towards the gay kids, and this relates to the religious attitudes towards gays. Gays aren't part of this breeding program. So they're basically considered an enemy, and so gay kids end up sort of being shunned from society and being outcasts, and very often they commit suicide. With regard to marriage, we have a statistic that in the U.S., the divorce rates for persons who are currently or have previously been divorced by religious belief or affiliation, the non-denominational Protestants carry a 34% there. The atheists and agnostics carry a 21% there. And there's a whole level going down the line, but non-denominational Protestants are pretty high. Catholics, it turns out, is low, and atheists and agnostics are low. But if you have an institution that's kind of co-opting marriage in order to make children, then and saying you can't have sex before marriage, and once you're married you have to raise kids and bring them up in the church, then you've kind of twisted the notion of what marriage is all about, and you've co-opted it and turned it into something else. You can make an analogy with conscription, right? It might be a noble thing to serve your country and to go, serve in the military, but if somebody coerces you into doing that, then it's no longer noble. And likewise, if marriage might be an expression of this very wonderful thing of love, but if it's co-opted for a breeding program, then and for a sexual release, then you're twisting the notion of what marriage is. So creating believers at the expense of people is really what's going on here. We're creating believers, and as a result, we're getting STDs, teen pregnancy, higher levels of abortion, infant mortality, all these negative things. And this is why I think all of these fit into the same sort of category of controlling sexuality. Okay. Do you want to take?
And I couldn't possibly disagree more.
Really?
With about 90% of what you said.
Okay. You're welcome to.
For real.
Okay.
But that's the beautiful thing.
That's the beautiful thing.
However, we got callers, and so maybe we'll talk more about it.